Hey, we are Dr. Shane and Liz Watt, and welcome to the Be Healthy Naturally podcast.
We are doing this podcast because we are trying to bring knowledge and education to create a new way of thinking about our health.
Knowledge is the key to live a happy, healthy life, and our goal is to help you live your best life.
Thank you for being on this journey with us, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Dr. Todd Cameron, ND, is the founder of Cameron Wellness and Spa and has spent nearly 30 years helping patients optimize their health through naturopathic and functional medicine. Recognized as Utah's best naturopathic physician for 9 consecutive years, he is known for his personalized approach to hormone and thyroid optimization, regenerative therapies, and IV nutrition. Dr. Cameron's philosophy is simple: listen first, educate every patient, and help people achieve lasting wellness, not just manage symptoms. So thank you, Dr. Cameron, for being on today. That's awesome. 9 years consecutive of being one of the best functional health doctors there.
I'm not going to respond to that. That's a little...
Trying to be humble. Good job. No. Well, that just says that you've been able to help a lot of patients. So thank you for your service in doing that.
A lot of patients, thanks to my mentors.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It is, you get into, and we're probably going to talk more about this, but it's, you get into something like this in your life. You think your life's going to go a certain way, takes a turn, and then you don't realize how much that turn really blesses other people's life. And I think that that's probably what's done it in your life too.
Yeah, you have kind of an interesting backstory. So just really quickly, tell us a little backstory of how you got into functional, because I remember you telling me about it.
I came in the left door, you guys. I was a climbing bum. I was an EMT. I got to be an EMT in the mid 70s because this guy died on a climb with a friend of mine, and he bled out in his pelvis. And I realized I'm hanging it out with my guys out in the middle of nowhere, and nobody knows anything. And so I got my EMT, then I got my National Registry, is what they used to call it. And when you get your National Registry, which is the next level up, it's reciprocity. You can work in any state. And so I helped start a quick response unit up in a rural area in Idaho, all volunteer. And we just told Fremont County, we said, give us a 4-wheel drive and 4 radios. We'll train people. We'll put our first aid kits together. And up until that time, they had nothing. And so they said, you got it. Here's your old beat up Blazer. And, here's, you guys keep it up. And here's 4 radios. And we started treating emergent, heart attacks, car accidents, you name it. Chainsaw accidents, lots of those. The guy you never put a chainsaw above your head. You don't do that. It'll kick back and cut you right down. And this guy it took his eyelid out and split it. And that's all that happened. And
wow.
I just said, do you know how lucky you are?
Oh, wow. He was like millimeters of just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it could have just,
that could have been some deathly damage.
So the brief version is I was on a climbing trip with a friend of mine up in the Southern Canadian Rockies, doing some of the peaks up there. And he's a nurse. Long story short, he kept talking about nursing. And I was going, James, the last thing in the world I want to do is go inside anywhere. Because I was teaching climbing, I was guiding.
You're the outdoor guy.
Yeah, I didn't want to go inside. And what did I do? I came back and ended up as a nurse, and I worked at primary children's peds ICU in the ICU. And that's when Jenny told me, hey, we got to get you out of there so we can start having babies, because you're seeing all the bad stuff. Let's go look at the good stuff. And then in the ICU, I was just like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just go to any school that will accept me. I'll become an ER doc, because that's the fastest track through, not trauma, but just, ER doc. and then I can continue my bohemian lifestyle and be a climbing bum and work 3 nights a week, right? And so I left the ICU, and I needed a job, and a friend of mine ran University Home Health, and she hired me, and she says, you can take as many cases as you want and build it around the rest of your school. I had to finish up organic chemistry and physics and whatever else I had to do before I could even apply to med school. So I did that. And that's when I really saw the dark underbelly of modern medicine. Now, I'd had a chiropractor. I won't mention his name, but I loved him. Both he and his wife, they worked on me when I'd have problems from getting screwed up with climbing. And so I had some idea of non-conventional medicine, right?
I'm surprised you didn't go the chiropractic route then if you had such a good experience there.
I had a great experience with chiropractic. I still do. Look, it's not the years, it's the mileage, Shane. You know that. It's not the years, it's the mileage. And I got a lot of mileage on this chassis. So yeah, I need my chiropractor bad. So, and she just knows what to do and what not to do, because I'm a special case. I have special needs.
There you go.
So, yeah, and you're treating your patients like that. You get to know them. You know what to do. You know what not to do. And anyway, I didn't know anything about. I'd never heard of naturopathic medicine, and at the time, functional medicine didn't exist. At least the term functional medicine didn't exist. So I ended up touring. There was only 2 accredited schools at that time: Bastyr, which is now University in Seattle, and National, which is now University in Portland. And I was accepted to both. And Jenny and I chose Portland for reasons I won't take time up today for. But what I do now, I didn't learn in medical school, because when it comes to hormones, testosterone, estradiol, progesterone, DHEA, and thyroid, no matter where you learn it, no matter what medical school you go to, they're going to teach you the same stuff. They're going to teach you that, if your thyroid stimulating hormone is within normal range, you don't have a problem. You don't need anything. And that's woefully inadequate, as you guys have heard me talk about. And the same thing is true with the sex hormones, because they scare people about, testosterone and heart disease in men. It helps to treat and prevent that. And estrogen in women creating breast cancer.
Yeah, there was a massive thing at 15, 20 years ago on the whole estrogen and breast cancer thing, right? Wasn't that where that whole thought process came into existence?
No, it started way before that.
Way before that.
You're referring to the Women's Health Initiative trial that was summarily discontinued in 2002 by the head investigators.
Well, that was the one that said the mammograms were a crock, right?
No, they didn't. No, they promoted mammograms. What they did is there's been 3 major, in the past several decades anyway, there's been 3 major trials that were funded by big pharma on postmenopausal women. There was the HERS trial, the PEPI trial, progesterone estrogen prevention initiative, and then the one that was ended in 2002 was the WHIT, the Women's Health Initiative trial. That's the one that blew up bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which was such a shame, because after not just Terry Hertog from Belgium, he's a very famous doctor, hormone doctor from Belgium, but it was other doctors. But I feel that it was Terry Hertog's. He came to the United States, and when did I see him? He actually came to Salt Lake, and that's why I heard about him, went to see him. 98, 99, something like that. And so human bioidentical hormone replacement therapy was really gaining traction in the 90s in the United States. And, thanks to people like Suzanne Summers, who were talking it up, people were starting to pay attention, and lots of people were getting treated. And when the Women's Health Initiative trial was abruptly stopped, and what the head investigators actually reported, they didn't do a peer-reviewed anything. What they did is very odd. They went to like mainstream media and they said, we really have to get this information out because it's very important. And at the time, mainstream media was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And they reported, among many things, that, well, we had to stop the trial because we had the control group, which were women age matched, socioeconomic matched, that weren't doing any human bioidentical. They weren't doing anything. And then you had the estrogen group. They call it the estrogen group. And then you had the estrogen and progesterone group. And we had to stop the trial because the estrogen progesterone group had and they stated this, a 27% increase in risk of breast cancer. 27%. They stated that. And it was like,
which is if that is the truth, then that would exactly be a good reason to stop something like that.
Exactly. But here's the reality. They were not using estradiol and they were not using progesterone.
In their estrogen progesterone group, they weren't using either of those.
They were using Premarin, which is
Premarin is from
horse.
Yeah, the pregnant horses,
Premarin
right?
Is a contraction, pregnant mare urine, Premarin.
Right.
It's not that that's so bad. It's just that doesn't exist in a human female. And for the progesterone, they were not using progesterone. They were using medroxyprogesterone. And when you put Premarin and medroxyprogesterone together, the drug is called Prempro. So they were using Prempro. They were not using estradiol, and they were not using progesterone. Their language was off, and their projection of data was definitely off. And so
why do you think they were using that instead of the estrogen and the progesterone?
How controversial can I become on this podcast?
You can become as much as you want.
We don't care. What are they going to do? Shut us down?
There's one thought process that is kind of about, well, let me back up one step. First of all, a pharmaceutical company cannot patent a natural hormone. So estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA cannot be patented. They can patent delivery methods like an estrogen patch or whatever, but they can't patent the actual naturally occurring hormone.
That's why they always have to change something in order to make it patentable, because they can't. Then if it's patentable, that's how they make money off of something, because you can't make money unless it's a patented.
There you go. So the one reason, I mean, they wanted to be able to sell patentable stuff, but there's kind of a darker secret here, and it's not really a secret. And of course, I'm going to immediately sound conspiratorial, but I've been studying this since 1996, and my mentors and I can tell you that what I'm about to say is absolutely true, regardless of what any doctor has learned in medical school. Big Pharma is very much aware that you, as an aged woman or man, go to someone like one of my main mentors, or someone like me that's been doing this for 30 years, and we study the estradiol, the progesterone, the DHA, and the testosterone, and we optimize it, not balance it. You don't want to balance anything. You don't want to normalize anything. You want to optimize it. And there's a lot of green pasture between normalizing and optimizing, and I'll go into that in a moment. But they're very fully aware that if you are actually being treated, that you're going to get better, and you're less likely over time to use other pharmacological agents, antidepressants, hypertension medication. I mean,
right. And the pharmaceutical world, that's why I always call it the pharmaceutical cartel, because
Yeah,
they,
cartel.
they just want you in that loop, right? They want you in the loop because
They
this
want
is going
you
to lead to
sick,
this, going to
man.
lead to this, going to lead to this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not healthcare. This is disease care. The more you need pharmacological agents, the better off they are. I mean, look, it's so obvious to people that pay attention. Why is it that over the years, I can't give you a number, but a fair percent, a fair percent of the FDA, the heads of the FDA come from being a CEO in a big pharma company.
Well, yeah, it's a completely incestual situation because they either leave the FDA and go to those, or they come from there and they go back and forth. Yeah, it's 100% incestual.
And if people don't, if people can't see it's not just the irony, it's the blatant. I mean, they just, people have a tendency to trust organizations, like the FDA and the CDC and the NIH and the stuff. And I'm the first one to say, we need those institutions to be doing what they're supposed to do. Absolutely.
But the key
we
is
are
supposed to do, because
supposed to.
they've turned into businesses.
And they come off, and they come off, they go way off the rails, and they head in directions that end up not benefiting the public like what is supposed to happen. But then what happens then is you've got the healthcare system that comes to support those decisions and those methodologies. And so I've worked in the field as an EMT. I've worked in ERs. I've worked in ICUs. I am the first person to tell you that, if I have an arrow sticking in my butt, take me to the ER, numb me up, pull the arrow out, clean it up, sew me up. Good standard of care. Great standard of care. But the standard of care when it comes to the stuff that we've been talking about, like the hormones and the thyroid.
Well, any chronic health, any real health condition, chronic health condition.
It's woefully inadequate.
Yeah. Emergency medicine in the United States is the top. Anything else, they suck. I mean, and the numbers prove it. I mean, the numbers show that we're like 54th or 53rd or something like that.
I would love to make a few changes if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew. But I don't run the zoo, but I could sure make some changes in ICUs if people would listen to me.
So that's what got you into all this stuff. So now let's kind of go through, what is it that you do, or what is it that, that can help patients and that we can talk about in regards to
Well, one
this?
thing is that this is a perfect conversation for us because, I've been going through menopause for the last 4 years, and I'm like going semi over the hump of that, and I'll tell you what, it's not fun. It's not fun going that whole thing, and all of a sudden it's like your life changes and the weight gain comes on and the hot flashes start, and you're waking up in the middle of the night, and there's just a
And
lot
you're
of
changing clothes because you get all wet and then you get cold.
well, that's the thing is I'm always having a blanket or a sweatshirt or something because it's like I'm having this major hot flash, and then the sweat gets so cold because now I'm full of sweat, and so now I'm cold and stuff like that. And it's not a fun thing. So I really want to get down to what is it that you do? How can it help people? What are some things that people can take away to be able to help them? And, you know, even me, I'm going to be taking some of these pointers from you today because it's not fun. It's not something that, it's frustrating with a lot of different aspects of, being married and having, going through this different type of stages where you live like a semi almost normal life to all of a sudden everything's uprooted and what you thought you were is totally different.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of the tops of the icebergs you just brought up. because it can go, we can go very deep. And I talk about this stuff all day long, every day with my patients. But I'll give you a background. We moved to our new clinic in Mill Creek from Sugar House in March of 2023. Since that time, the number of new patients whose blood we've drawn and we've run their hormones and their thyroid, the number of people that have had a healthy, optimal amount of free testosterone, which is the biologically active form of testosterone, there's been 5 people. Everybody else has been low. The number of people that have had a healthy amount of free T3,
Now you're talking men and women, correct?
men and women, and free T3 is the active form of thyroid hormone. There's been 2 people since 2023 that have had a healthy amount. So there's pandemics out there that are unseen. I encourage all of my patients, and I show them the graphs. One of the first things I do when we're talking about hormones is I type in the website testosteronedecline.com. And you'll see that these scientists have been studying the decline in testosterone production in men and women all over the world since probably before 1960, but their reporting starts in 1960 and goes to today. And because we have very robust data going back to about 1960. Prior to 1960, we still have data. Some of it's good, some of it's not quite as robust, but it's very,
So
very.
you said something the worldwide. I was very familiar with the decline in testosterone. I guess I didn't think about it being everywhere. Like I was
It's
thinking,
everywhere.
out in the middle of, the nothingness, and you still got the Aboriginals or whatever. I mean, even in those people and things like that, it's been decreased as well.
These scientists have been studying country to country, in the United States, even state to state. They'll even do region to region in certain countries. The highest testosterone in the world, believe it or not, is Uzbekistan.
Okay.
Lowest is a country that I can't pronounce, and it's got to be somewhere in the Czech Republic because it has a bunch of C's and Z's in it. So I can't pronounce it. But anywhere you look, their data sets have come from since 1960. It's all going down at about at least a 20, if not 30 degree, or if steeper angle. It's going down, and the main cause is farm chemicals. But there's other causes. I have 3 sons. I have a daughter who's got 3 so I have 3 grandchildren. But I'll tell you, guys that keep their phones in their front pockets, I'm telling you, that's not a good idea. If you want to see a lab rat's testosterone go down, plug a phone in, stick it in his cage, and just keep studying the level of testosterone in that rat, and it's going like this. So people don't understand that there's other causes, but to get back to Jen's point, it's like everybody, when we age, the whole point, I'll put it in a sentence, because I see people, not so much anymore, but earlier on, I saw a lot of, like women that are going through menopause that will say, well, I just want to do it naturally. God built this whole thing so that, you reduce you grow old. And it's like, well, yeah, but we have the technology to make you biologically younger until you're in your 90s. We can do it. We know it. I know. I've been studying this for 30 freaking years. I know what the numbers are on paper. I know where I want your testosterone, estradiol, progesterone. I know where I want it. But then on the other side of the equation, there's how is your personal response? Like, did you break out with acne when you started using testosterone? Did you get, the 7 dwarves of PMS, grumpy, weepy, bitchy, moany, when you started estradiol? Yeah. And so it's like to me, it's not rocket science because I've been doing it so long. To me, it's obvious. It's like, and so that's why I educate. As a matter of fact, I'm I'm going to say it. I get kind of emotional about this, so I'm going to say sorry before if I get emotional. But my mentor, his name's Neil Rousier, and he's recently is unable to teach from a platform that he's been teaching from for many, many, many years. And I mean, it just broke my heart. I can't prescribe testosterone to myself. I'm 71 years old and I've been doing testosterone for a long time, but I have to have a friend of mine who's a nurse practitioner prescribe it to me because testosterone is a scheduled medication.
Right.
Controlled substance. It's in the same schedule as an opiate, you know,
Which is crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's the way it is because people abuse it and they get dumb and they damage themselves. Like Lyle Alzado back in the 60s, a football player, he freaking killed himself shooting up testosterone before every game. But I'll tell you what, if you go back and look at his videos, you can see the rage in him. And so when he left the NFL, he found Jesus and became a Christian. And they did a documentary. I've watched his full documentary twice, all the way through. And at one point he looks at the camera and he just says, I'm a phony. I was doing these injections before every game, and that's why I was trying to kill people. And he really was. I don't know how many traumatic brain injuries he caused. He was a linebacker for the Oakland Raiders.
Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, and he was a freaking animal. He called football on the field war. That was his word. And he said, if anybody thinks they're having fun out there, they're lying. It's war. Everybody is either attacking or being attacked. And he killed himself by shooting up too much testosterone, you know? So that's why it's a scheduled medication, right? That's why. I digress, sorry. But if you know what the numbers are and want to be, it's a little bit scary because when I start treating people, the first thing that I have to let them know is eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see on your lab report that let's just take testosterone as an example. Your testosterone is going to be a little or maybe a lot above what normal range is. And that's what we want because that's where optimal range comes in. Because if me and you were 23 years old, the year I was born in 1955 without tons and tons of chemicals and stuff, you know, my number would be 25 to 30 picograms per mil. So when I had my nurse practitioner friend, Amy, start to treat me many years ago, she didn't know any of this stuff. And so when we took my blood the first time and it was like 30 picograms per mil on a scale on LabCorp that goes from 6 to 18.1, she freaked out. She was like, oh my gosh, you know, you're taking way too much testosterone. You're going to die of a heart attack. And this is what I told her. Exactly what I told her. Amy, of course I'm going to die of a heart attack, dear. I'm an American. That's what we do. We die of heart attacks. And it's not because my cholesterol is high, and it's not because you're giving me testosterone. It's because we're fat, sick, and nearly dead because we eat like crap. It has nothing to do. What you're doing is protecting me.
So let's step back just 1 second on something. So one thing that you said, and I want to clarify this, is you were talking about how the testosterone, they've done all these studies and they've shown that testosterone has dropped. The problem that has happened with that is what is considered the normal rate has also dropped. So 50 years ago, if you want to say, and I don't have the numbers exactly, but let's just say it was 800 for testosterone. That was normal. Now they have the range as low as 300 is normal. And so the problem is what is considered a normal range has changed. So, and that's throughout all blood work. So all blood work is basically done on sick people get yearly physicals, and sick people are the ones who get their blood work done. And so it's all done on a sliding scale. So they combined all the scores and say, okay, what is normal? So I just kind of wanted to emphasize that. So as you talked about that whole thing, now the what we call normal has been altered. And so what you're saying is it's not just what is considered normal, it's what we call like the functional range versus the medical range. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, this is the way the world works. Many years ago, probably many decades ago at this point, Congress formed CLIA. CLIA is a governmental entity at the federal level that is tasked with certifying labs. So if you're LabCorp, your ARUP, your Kaiser Permanente, your Quest, in order to be a lab, you need to maintain a CLIA certification. And part of what you have to do to maintain that CLIA certification is to do a statistical analysis every X number of years, a statistical analysis of every single test you run it through your lab, thousands of tests. Then what you have to do is you have to have your statisticians calculate the bell curve, then calculate the 90th percentile, and by federal law, whatever those numbers turn out to be in the normal, what we call normal range, has to be on the patient report. And we're at a place, we're so low, I'm going to use testosterone in women as the best example. When you look at a LabCorp free testosterone reference interval, normal range, it starts at 0.0.
Yeah, so it's showing that there's no testosterone in a woman, right?
And you're saying that, and saying that that's normal.
0.0 to 4.2 picograms per mil. Yep.
Now, because I'm sure you know this, what would you say it should be? To just
above 4.2. Above 4.2 picograms per mil. I don't care if it's 5, I don't care if it's 6, I don't care if it's 7. Unless she's starting bar fights, Shane, she's not taking too much testosterone.
I was wondering why I did that bar fight the other day. I was just
unless she's starting bar fights, that's funny.
Well, yeah. It is.
But that's where people get so screwed up, right? Is that they go to their doctor, their regular doctor, and their doctor says, "Oh, let's do blood work. Oh, your tests are normal." They don't test enough stuff, right? Number one, like on the thyroid, they test 2 things instead of the 8 or 9 or 10 things that you should be tested. And that TSH falls within the normal realm, which I think is the stupidest test ever because it's the thyroid stimulating hormone. It has nothing to do with what the thyroid is doing. It has to do with what is being stimulated for the thyroid to work, right? And so all those numbers that's why it's so misleading. That's why people are so frustrated, right? Is because and that's why they come into you is because they're like, everybody says my tests are normal and da-da-da-da-da, right?
Yes, normal and optimal are so different. And back to thyroid just really quickly so your viewers can understand. The thyroid stimulating hormone, as Dr. Shane has just said, is a stimulatory hormone from your brain.
From the pituitary, right? It comes from the pituitary gland?
Yeah, pituitary, yeah. So thyroid releasing hormone comes from the hypothalamus, stimulates the pituitary to create thyroid stimulating hormone, which then stimulates the thyroid to produce hormone.
The T3 and the T4, and then yeah.
Yeah, but there's so much gravitational field around the TSH. So what you and I are asking is like, basically, why is there so much gravitational field around a stimulatory hormone from the pituitary when that says nothing about the end product of what the thyroid is actually producing? Why don't you study that? But then there's one more element to that almost nobody does. I'm one of the very few doctors in the country, and I'm not going to tell you why I know this, but that not only understand I mean, there's a lot of doctors that study the reverse T3, but not many of them know what to do about it. Because reverse T3 is, in chemistry, you guys will remember chirality, right? So if this is T3, the right hand, reverse T3 is the chiral molecule or the mirror image. Okay. And the American Academy of Clinical Endocrinologists has declared the mirror image or reverse T3 as an quote unquote inactive hormone. And so it's never worked its way into anybody's standard of care to study it. Well, I went to about 29 years ago. I went to a seminar when this PharmD, Jim Paoletti is his name. He was doing a PowerPoint presentation on reverse T3, and I was so gobstruck. I approached him. I actually bird dogged him at the break before lunch, and I just said, dude, I've been through nursing school, medical school, residency. I've read Harrower, I've read Barnes, I've read Brownstein. I've never even heard of this stuff. What the heck is going on? And he says it's because the endos call it an inactive hormone, so it's not in anybody's standard of care to study it. I've been studying it on everybody ever since. And the reality is that the only way it's inactive is that the levo or left-handed molecule cannot dock with the nuclear receptor site. So it can't create the metabolic, the whole mitochondrial energy production. It can't do it. But if it's present, it can block T3 from doing it. So the outcome is the same. I'm tired in the morning. I'm tired in the afternoon. I have a general sense of fatigue. I'm lethargic. What's that guy's name? Where did I park my car? Where did I put my keys? Why did I walk in this room? What did that paragraph say? Why can't I gain weight? Why can't I lose weight? And why is my give a crap meter starting to just kind of, and it's like, well, you didn't run a reverse T3. And I can tell you this since 2016. No, I'm a data guy. I mean, I can spin a good yarn, but I'm a data guy. And I can tell you from my data, from my patients, since a certain week in 2016, 90+% of my new patients are over converting to reverse T3 because of stress.
And so what you're saying is the reverse T3 blocks it's almost like insulin resistance, where I mean, like, if that's kind of a weird way of saying it, but it doesn't allow the T3 to get to where it needs to go, so it can mesh with the cell on the outer cell, so that it actually can go in. So it blocks it, and so the T3 can't go in.
It's a little more complicated than that, but that's exactly the point.
I'm a simple-minded person here, Doc. So
if it's present, if reverse T3 is present, then T3 cannot do its job.
What it needs to do.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
It can maybe do a little bit of it, but it can't do. And so here's their numbers are all perfect. Their TSH is good. Their free T4, free T3 is good. Nobody ran the reverse T3, and all the rest of the tests I don't care about, like the T3 uptake and all the rest of the crap. I don't even care about anymore. But they'll still be having the symptoms and the signs, and yet they'll just go to somebody and say, what's wrong? And then the saddest thing is, even if someone does have a TSH that's high, we're taught, and you were probably taught, that the medication that you prescribe is Synthroid.
Synthroid, levothyroxine, yeah,
which
those
is
are the
T4 only. But what if the patient is taking that T4 and over-converting it to reverse T3? They're taking exactly the wrong medication. But nobody's going to tell them that because nobody looks. You remember when your kids were growing up?
We still have kids growing up, but yeah.
Okay. And do you remember when they come to you and they go, Mom or Dad, hey, where are my shoes?
And they're exactly where you put them.
Yeah, exactly. So what you say is something akin to, well, sweetie, I don't know where your shoes are, but there's nothing like looking if you want to find something. So let's go look for your shoes. Doctors don't even look for reverse T3 because they don't know to do it. Nobody's taught them. I just thank God for my mentors. I honestly do. Every day I leave my clinic, I do this little ceremony thing. And it doesn't take me long. It's not like I'm not going for an hour. It's just like I'm walking out the door.
Giving thanks to thanks.
Yep. And I thank my mentors because it's kind of like Neil, I started developing a course for hormones because it's got to happen.
So so when a patient comes into you, let's just say you run labs, what is it you do to help them? Let's just say, I come into you or something like that. What is it? I'm in the middle of menopause. I have all this stuff going on, whatever. What is it that you do? You start running labs, or is there like blood? Do you also do urine? Do you also do what is it that you run here?
Thanks for the question. The first thing I'm going to address is the word menopause. Many, both men and women, use the term menopause in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to make it crystal clear. At one point in your time, young lady, you were pre-adolescent. Then you went through adolescence and your hormones kind of went like this. And then you were post-adolescence, which means you were premenopausal. You were in your reproductive years. You were cycling pretty regularly. Then you will get to a time, it sounds like you're getting there, where you go into perimenopause. Peri is a word that means next to or near. So perimenopause is adolescence in reverse. So in adolescence, your levels of estradiol and progesterone and testosterone and DHEA were going like this, but they were headed like this. In perimenopause, they're doing the same thing, but they're going like that.
Going down.
And then you'll wake up one day in post-menopause. Your ovaries have said, thanks, like the dolphin said in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thanks, goodbye, and thanks for all the fish. They're not going to operate anymore. They're done. And so that's why I treat post-menopausal women very, very, very differently than I treat peri or premenopausal women.
What's your definition of post? Like they hadn't had a cycle for how long, or how do you definition?
Very good question. Okay. We were taught.
Like 6 months or something, right?
No. It's
well, let me tell you my experience. Well, let me tell you what I was taught. Then let me tell you my experience. Well, I was taught that you can diagnose a woman as being postmenopausal two ways: being 1 year without a Menses cycle, or having a follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone that are elevated. So we have 3 boys, 2 of which were birthed by a lay midwife whose names I probably shouldn't mention, but she lost count 30 years ago at 4,000. She has no idea how many kids she's helped come into the world. And she used to come and give me a hug and a kiss, and sometimes we'd go to lunch when I was in Sugar House, because she's in her 80s now. And I'm telling you, she told me 20, 30 years ago, I'm going to slow down. It's like, right, you're going to slow down. So she came to me one day and she was just looking at me with this look on her eyes. And I'm going, Chris, what's going on? And she goes, I just delivered a baby from a 53-year-old woman.
Oh, that better not happen, hon.
Well, from that day until now, I never diagnosed a woman as being postmenopausal by going a year without a period.
Cycle.
I run an FSH and an LH because I am not going to be the doctor that gets a telephone call from a patient saying, you said I didn't have to worry about birth control and now I'm pregnant and I'm 52. It's like, oh, oops, sorry. So what they teach in school is only partially true.
So you run the LH and the FSH just to make sure that the ovaries are no longer doing nothing.
Yes. And then when those numbers come in and they actually are postmenopausal, that's when I'm very concerned. Premenopausally, perimenopausally, I don't care what the numbers of estradiol and progesterone are, because I'm going to treat the patient by symptom. Just today, I had a woman who, she's 46. She's still having a cycle. The cycle is becoming a little bit more irregular, telling us that she's getting close to being perimenopausal or going into that perimenopausal time. But certainly she's not postmenopausal. She's still, before being fully postmenopausal. And so I said, the whole 7 dwarfs thing. Do you suffer from, grumpy, weepy, bitchy, moany, da, 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 da? And she's like, yeah. And I said, here's your progesterone. You're going to take I'm going to give you a troche, which is a little wafer of cocoa butter that has progesterone in it, and you're going to take it when you need it. So like as you're getting to your cycle and you can feel that grumpy, weepy stuff coming on, you just start putting a quarter or maybe a half under your tongue and let it melt, and that will ease the premenopausal stuff. And what you're experiencing right now with, I won't go into detail because that's too much for this podcast, but when I don't know if you ever come up and we have lunch or something, I can take you exactly through what's happening with you. Like what's happening in your brain, what's happening with the kinin molecules and the estradiol molecules. I can take you
Well,
all
and
the
like,
way.
the thing is I am 16 months post, and so, but I'm still experiencing hot flashes, there's,
You're experiencing hot flashes because your estradiol is dropping because you're getting really, really close to being postmenopausal. Maybe you're there. It's easy enough. Just have,
Well, I thought we did an FSH test on you. Did we not do that? We'll have to look.
we'll have to look and see, but it's
We've done
been
a lot
16
of
months. So I know that, I've
16
gone
months since your cycle.
16 months is my cycle, but
So according to the medical model, she is postmenopausal.
and before that it was 6 months. So I know that it is like, it's there. It's just you're still experiencing things that, this is how it's going to be for the rest of your life? Is that what I'm wondering?
what I do, very briefly, what I do, like you're a younger woman, you're going through PMS, you're 22 years old and you have pretty bad either premenstrual syndrome or premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is basically just PMS on steroids, I just give you, I don't care what your numbers are. I just give you progesterone. If you're a teenager and you're experiencing that, and a lot of teens do, I'll use Vitex agnus. It's an herb, a really incredible herb that interacts with both estrogen and P4 progesterone receptor sites. It's the only herb I'm aware of that actually has that amount of power on both of those receptor sites. So
what
that
was
can
the
help.
name of that again?
It's Vitex. It's chaste berry, Vitex agnus. It's a great herb. It's really great. I don't really use it for women as they're aging because sure, it could reduce symptoms, but in an aging woman, I want to protect brain, heart, vessels, bones, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. I don't want to just relieve symptoms, right? And you can't relieve symptoms. I mean, you can relieve symptoms by using like hot flashes and night sweats. You can do Dong Quai or whatever. You can use a bunch of herbs that have phytoestrogens in them, plant-based estrogens, and they occupy the receptor sites, but they don't provide the protection. And that's where I tell people, because they said, well, I thought you did natural medicine. How come you want to write me a prescription? And it's like, well, you have to understand there's nothing more natural than a naturally occurring hormone, testosterone, DHEA, estradiol, and progesterone. And when you optimize those, then what you do is make you biologically younger. And people that are biologically younger are healthier. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple, really. It just, it doesn't happen to me very much anymore where women will say, hey, I don't want to do hormones because I'm scared of them. That's, and that really
that kind of has passed. I think it seems like there's
it's not all the way past, but it was a blessing that, about a year ago, maybe ish.
Yeah. When,
I'm so bad at timelines, but remember when the FDA finally pulled the black box warning off of estradiol?
Right. Well, it was because of RFK, right? And he basically said, "Hey, we've damaged women for the last 20 plus years because of this. We are changing this." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Thank
sure.
God. Thank God, because this will surprise. There's a oncologist from the UK by the name of Avram Blooming. He wrote a book called Estrogen Matters. And in the UK, they spell estrogen O-E, not just E.
Really?
And yeah. So some people, the American version is just E, but the UK version, the one that I have, is O-E. There's, in the oncological literature, and again, a lot of what I tell people is like, you're going to hear me be passionate about stuff and be really, but most of where I'm coming from is in the scientific literature. It's not just Todd's opinion, right? So I was turned on to Avram Blooming by my mentor, Neil, years ago. And so I read his stuff. Anyway, in the oncological literature, peer-reviewed, published oncological literature, there is very strong definitive evidence that there is one hormone, and this is going to get me in trouble. There's one hormone that can not only prevent certain types of breast cancer, that's all I'm going to say is certain types, and even treat it. And that hormone is estradiol. Women, all the studies done that were funded by Big Pharma said estrogen causes cancer.
Right.
Guys, if hormones cause cancer, none of us would
be alive. Yeah.
Do you guys all remember how you felt when you were 20 years old?
Yeah. Well, and let's clarify a little bit. There's 3 different types of estrogens, correct? And do they have subtypes as well, or is it just basically those 3?
There's estrone, which is estrogen 1, estradiol, estrogen 2, and estriol, estrogen 3. And they just have a slightly different chemical construction. But by far, the strongest form of estrogen is estradiol.
But that for a long time had the
It was wrapped up in the bad of like just the regular estrogen, right? It was all wrapped up in the same thing, not realizing that there's different ones.
Yes, and there are a lot of camps out there. Camps meaning camps that teach certain ways of assessing and treating hormone decrease as we go over time. And I've studied with most of them. And so there's kind of interesting thought processes about which one of the estrogens are like safer than others. And it's really interesting because some camps would say, so for example, some camps, when they're providing a patient with estrogen, they'll combine estradiol with estriol. They call that biased. And they're convinced that that is the safer way of doing things because this particular camp calls estriol the safe estrogen. And the interesting thing to me is that through the back door implies that estradiol is the unsafe estrogen.
Well, I think it's kind of been taught that, right? You always talk about the 3, and the 1 was kind of the bad one, which is kind of crazy to think.
And I'm the first one to admit that you don't want to give estradiol to a woman that has active endometrial cancer, for example, because the estradiol will not cause the cancer, but what it will do is it will help the endometrium get more blood flow to it, and that will feed the cancer. So, but that's not causal. It is absolutely not causal. And doctors get just as confused as patients as to what is association and what is causal. And if you don't know the difference between association and causal, you can make some pretty bad decisions for your patients.
So, we've had an awesome conversation. You are very, you've done your let's just say you've done your homework, right? You've spent a lot of time in the data and everything like that. Let's turn the page just a little bit because we have just not too much longer left. But tell me about. Let's go to the other side. Let's go to the men's side because you talked to me one time about you are a fan, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're a fan of more of the creams
Yes.
for men. Now, is that the same for the women as well? You're a fan of the creams. You're so. Can you just kind of go into like the whole testosterone thing just a little bit and why you want to do creams? Why, in your opinion, creams are better than injections or the pellets or whatever?
Sure. The injections and the pellets, you have a lot less control over. You can't adjust with the pellets. You can adjust. I'm less, down on pellets than I am on injections. Creams will bring up levels of testosterone a little slower, keep them higher for longer, and then as they go down, I have my patient do it again at night, and then it kind of comes up again. So over time, you get this kind of linear, it's not exactly like this, but it's like this.
So you're saying shots kind of do this?
Yes, shots do this, and there's no time in our evolutionary history where any human being ever went like this with testosterone. That just never occurred. And so the negative side effects, what a lot of clinics and doctors don't understand is receptor sites. So as you age, and we'll just focus on testosterone now, but we could be talking about the other hormones. As we age, and our concentration naturally and normally drops, every cell in our body that has testosterone receptor sites, which is most of them, not all, but I mean, certainly the cardiovascular system, the musculoskeletal system, the central nervous system, you're going to have cells grow more receptor sites. Because think about it this way: if you're on the baseball field and you've got 100 balls, statistically speaking, you don't need too many mitts for a good chance of catching a ball. But what if you only have 1 or 2 balls? Well, then the more mitts you have, better chance of catching a ball. It's a statistical game. So when you take somebody that has got very low testosterone levels and you just shove some in their hip, you're going to completely overwhelm the receptor sites. So my method that Neil taught me is start low, go slow. Of course, that's my mantra with everything. Start with a quarter mil, then go to a half and go to, and over about a month, build up slow. And then at week 6, 4 hours after the morning dose, take the blood and see where it is. And at that point in time, you've pretty much downregulated the receptor sites. I don't know why people don't think about the downregulation of receptor sites. It's important. I mean, it's just crazy important because, you see these guys that, they just go in and get an injection and they've been low testosterone for years. Well, they're chasing their wives around for the first couple of days. Their kids are hiding in closets because they're grumpy as hell. And it's like, why did you do it that way? Well, that's what we do. Why do you do it that way? Well, because that's what we do. I took a weekend seminar. I'm an expert.
Yeah, and there's lots of places that do it that way,
So
right?
with the
And there's lots of
creams, you
opinions.
say that you can manage it a lot better. It's actually goes along with probably the rhythm, more of the rhythm of how the body works. And
Yeah. So
Well,
what we
and his biggest thing is that he's not over, like when you shoot, let's just say you shoot some in, right? You're saying it becomes it's almost like once again back to the insulin resistance. Those cells become, because they're getting overloaded, they shut down, so they're not bringing in as much.
They don't so much shut down as it drives the receptor sites down, but while they're there, it overwhelms them. It overwhelms them, and the person kind of goes aggro, right? And so my gold standard is this, based upon my mentor's teaching and my 30 years of clinical experience. Testosterone, I prefer in a cream. Estradiol, I prefer in a pill. Progesterone, I prefer in a pill. By pill, I mean capsule, micronized. And then DHEA is over the counter. You can buy it at any supplement shop. And I help people understand what the levels are when they get there. But the reason why estradiol because a lot of women are fearful, their doctors have taught them to be fearful of oral estradiol because of a menopausal woman's risk of blood clot. And so a lot of women will come back to me and go, I don't want to do the oral. Give me a patch or, give me a cream. So sure, I'll start somebody on a vaginal suppository or cream if they're a postmenopausal woman, if they're suffering from vaginal dryness and just discomfort. Well, of course I'll start there. but eventually I'll want to get oral. And the reason is because the scientific literature is very, very clear that it's only the oral form of estradiol that is protective against cardiovascular disease. It is not the transdermal. Transdermal will help with brain. It'll help a little bit with heart, not much, and bones, sure. But it's not going to impart and keep in mind that Americans die of heart attacks, right? That's what we do. So, by giving them oral estradiol, you're actually adding protection to the cardiovascular system. And the reason why I use progesterone orally, young lady, if you're listening, it's because women need to spend, postmenopausal women, we're not growing anymore. We stopped growing at 16. We need repair hormone. And one of the best ways to increase a postmenopausal woman's repair hormone, growth hormone, is by giving her oral progesterone at night, because she's going to sleep better. That's why I told you to double your dose tonight, because it's like, look, you know what Jenny does? I prescribe, there's not too many compounding pharmacies that'll put 300 milligrams in a cap. Most of them cap it off at 2. But I have one that'll give me 3, and that's who I used for Jenny. And so she takes 300 milligrams a night. Keeping in mind she's postmenopausal, okay? But every once in a while she'll take 2. That's 600 milligrams of progesterone, and people kind of freak out about that. Like, oh my gosh, isn't that way too much? To which I say, how do you sleep? It's all in the symptoms. I got a 97-year-old patient on 600 milligrams a night. She hadn't slept more than an hour and a half for 40 years. Her daughter asked me a couple of years ago, she goes, how old's too old? Meaning, like, how old's too old to prescribe hormones? And I said, that's not a thing. She goes, my mom's 75 or 95. Will you treat her? I said, sure. And she's now 97 or 98. Anyway, she took 200. I gave her 200 milligram capsule. And I said, report to me. She goes, well, maybe a little bit more. I'm sleeping maybe 2 hours instead of an hour and a half. For 40 years, this woman spent hour and a half increments of sleep before she'd wake up. I can't believe she didn't go psychotic.
Yeah,
I just
really.
can't. And so so
I guess I shouldn't say that I wake up at least 2 to 3 times a night.
Well, no, that's why we know you're psychotic. I can use that against you.
So, but your dose, you just double it tonight. What do you have to lose? The only thing that happens to Jenny when she takes 600 is, I can tell she took 600 because she usually gets up at about 6:30, and and there's no movement. Just, she's out. And then she gets up and she's a little groggy until she gets going. And then I knew she took 600 that night.
All right. Well, we've gone way overboard, but you know what? Who cares? We love the conversation with you, because you're such an empowered doctor, and we appreciate you've been involved in our conference. You've given lots of great information, and we just want to say thank you for your time, effort, for all the benefits that you've helped with so many people, because you put the time and effort into doing what you do. So thank you.
So thanks to my mentors.
Yeah. Thanks to them too, right? Yeah.
Thanks to you guys for doing all you do for the conferences. I can only just imagine how much work that is. I just was like, wow. You guys,
it is.
Well, we are famous for 2 days. Yeah. After we walk out of there, we're not famous anymore. But Dr. Cameron, where can people find you?
Wherever I go, there I am.
What is your
without the profoundness? Do you have a website? Do you have
CameronWellnessCenter.net. Jenny may have changed that to Cameron Wellness Center and Spa.net, but I don't think so. I think it's just CameronWellnessCenter.net. And we're in Mill Creek now at our beautiful new, it's 3378 South, 2300 East. Really
It's
cool.
just off that intersection. They're not at the intersection, but just off the freeway, right? It's just that little loop, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
right there.
about a mile, not quite a mile south of the 2300 East exit. Yeah.
Off of 215.
And I have been to your place. I've
Yes.
come and gotten IVs done there.
Yeah.
So when I was suffering with my low
Iron.
I went there and I got vitamin C injections and then
And the
didn't
iron.
you do
No,
something
no,
too?
we didn't do iron.
Not iron. It wasn't the iron. It was the vitamin C. It was the vitamin C injections. Is what I did.
If you're going to have a problem with an IV, it's going to be with iron. So I have not done iron in my clinic, and I've been asked a million times. And I
went to the hospital to get that done, but I did the vitamin C with you and maybe some ozone or something like that.
Ozone with ultraviolet light.
Something like that, yeah. So
I know we figured out we've done in between 25,000 and 30,000 IVs in my career. And before I've moved to this clinic, I did them all. Well, maybe not all of them because I've had resident.
Now you
were shooting the needles and everything, huh?
I did everything myself for years, ordering, mixing, starting the IVs. But when we moved to this new facility, I've hired 2 extremely competent medical assistants, and because I can't keep going back and forth.
Yeah, because your IV clinic's like it's a little bit separate.
It's a little cottage.
Yeah, it's a little suite.
Yep, yeah. That's right.
All right.
Well, thanks for being on today.
Guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. So we appreciate it. So if you're in need, and if you have any questions, or if you want to reach out to Dr. Cameron, please do so, and he'll help take care of you.
And the last thing I'll say tonight is, Liz, double your dose tonight and see what happens.
Well, I'll try it because that's from a doctor. It's not like I ever want to double my dose if I don't know what I'm doing exactly, but
she's doubling it. So we'll see how it does.
Yeah,
so
we'll report back to you.
And then message me and tell me.
All right. Hey, thanks so much, Doc.
Okay, you guys, thanks a lot.
Your health journey is between you and your healthcare providers.
So remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only.
To stay up to date, visit us at BeHealthyUtah.com.
And please subscribe to our newsletter where we give additional health information, health tips, as well as recipes.
Thank you to our 2026 sponsors.
We truly could not do this without them.